Alright, man.
Fucked up, man. It's the last bit.
You ever wish that that experience was more portable? A lot of companies realize that sometimes it isn't the most convenient thing to bring your entire 10-pound Franklin Mint Scrabble game, and when you throw the dictionary in, it really becomes cumbersome. So, like the example given, Scrabble, a lot of games will provide a travel option for board games. I will be showing a few of these, but the main focus of this video is just how small we can get with these small versions of board games, and to try and surmise why. Like the example I just gave, Scrabble offers a travel version of their game called Travel Scrabble, and this is one of the most popular variants that I see around. Now, in the original Scrabble game, this one I have is from the late 40s, you just get a board and some racks and some tiles to put upon those racks. When you're sick of having those tiles on those racks, you may actually take the tiles off the rack and put them onto this board to create words such as that. It's the best I could do. I didn't even see the tiles. The loose tiles on the board is not the most ideal form factor for Scrabble, so most travel editions of Scrabble feature a tile locking system, i.e. a grid in which the tiles will snap into, and then they can be maneuvered all sorts of ways and not be adjusted. Now, what this also allows for is it allows you to be able to close the game up and even take the racks and slide them under, such as that, to close the game and resume it at a later time. I think this is a complete across-the-board improvement over the original game. Well, you know, the original game is classic and great. There's a reason why later versions of the game, full-size versions more so, have a tile-locking feature where you can slot the tiles right into the board and they'll stay in place, because it is a better, more enjoyable experience than the normal game where when you place a tile down, they'll fucking fly everywhere and cause mayhem. But what if this was just too bulky for you and it's too convenient and decent? What if you were trying to sneak this into like a prison or something, wherever that may be? This is Keychain Scrabble. You're intended to actually clip this onto your keychain and play it that way. To open it up, you just snap the board open, and there it is. Now, these little recesses here, though it might be hard to tell, these are the racks that the players use in the game. Because, you know, sitting on this side, there'd just be absolutely no way you could see what's 3 inches away from you. And the tiles, well, they store right here in this drawer. Yeah, I think we found the bottleneck here. You see, these tiles, instead of being tile lock or anything, they are magnetic, which, you know, seems like it would be a decent enough alternative, but because they're magnetic, they'll stick to one another, they'll move all around, and it's just not practical. And it's even less practical because the most ideal way to play with these tiny games is to use a pair of tweezers, but since most tweezers are metal and made out of ferrous metal, no less, such as steel, you're just not going to have a good time with this. So I'm not sure I get it. Maybe it just exists out of a pure novelty, but this is too small to work for Scrabble. So the point of this video, and the question I guess I'm trying to answer here, is how small can we make these board games before they break? And when they do, why do they break? The next one we've got here is Catan Portable Edition. Not all of these are going to be a semi-decent form factor here. We're just starting from the more conventional and larger ones and kind of more obscure ones, and going down to smaller and smaller. In the Settlers of Catan, if you're not aware, you actually have to assemble the board itself out of puzzle pieces so that the board changes every time you play. You start by constructing the outside like this. Then on the inside, hexagonal tiles are placed to create a unique game board. On top of that, you've got a bunch of houses and towns and hotels and tiny thimbles and such. You got a bunch of numbered pieces there, some dice, and some cardboard cards as well. This is a lot of pieces because it's meant to be a solid, sit-down, thorough experience. It is not the best starting place to find a portable version of it, but let's see how they did it. Right off the top of the bat, once you open it up, you're greeted to a pretty genius solution. See, those numbered discs that I showed you, they're supposed to be placed on top of the tiles in the same orientation every time. Those don't change, just what the tiles underneath do. So for this one, to create fixed numbers, the numbers are fixed directly to the board, and then to change the environment, there are tiny hexagonal tiles that go in the middle like that. In the original game, you had to just place buildings alongside the borders between tiles, but now there are dedicated pegs that you can slot them right into that keep them on the board like that. The cards are also so much cuter and smaller, at about a third the size. And the thing I think I like most in comparison to even the original game is that there's a dedicated plastic tray to organize everything through. So it's a lot smoother of an experience than the original. It's kind of like the banker slots in Monopoly. You know, it's not necessary at all, but it's so convenient and so neat that it just really elevates the experience here. Ironically, it seems when they have to think with limitations and actually think smaller, they can come up with a better product. This seems like a more enjoyable way to play the game than the original, where you have to have a huge setup with everything loose and can't rely on things to stay in place. Here, things aren't going anywhere, not even the tiles. You start over like that, and that's really neat. The game board's also plastic, so it's less susceptible to damage, such as tearing or, spills or things like that. Obviously, that's the same flaw that, like, any board game has, where if the board's made out of something like paper, it'll get fucked with that. But this won't, and that's really neat. This is a definite buy. This is really great. The next product I've got here comes directly to us from Kmart.
Kmart sucks. I see.
The 6-in-1 Magnetic Games Kit. Now this is something I bought when I was homeless with my girlfriend at the time, and it was quite a handy-dandy device. So you can see how it works pretty much. It's just some generic pieces that you can use as a catch-all for any game. So right now it's on Backgammon, but if you want to change it to another game... Whoa! Whoa! Oh my god! Now it's about to get Chinese up in here. And as that says, obviously, they're magnetic too, but the pieces are still big enough to where you can grab them easily and place them anywhere on the board, and you're not going to have an issue. They don't attract to one another because they're well insulated by the plastic, and even if they do, there's no game in here that is complex enough where it won't get screwed up by a piece getting moved a little bit, in comparison to Scrabble, where it's highly context sensitive and everything needs to be in place. It also looks like the piece is moving, going on a nice journey throughout history of different board games. There's some chess patterns on top if you want to use these with chess. And I do have to remark just how clever it is to have all the game boards on just one roll here. But it's not paper, it's still solid enough to where it's not going to curl up or fold or anything. It's a solid, reliable experience. So this is easily, obviously it's not in print anymore, but this is easily one of the best purchases I've ever made in my life. It's so fun, it's so reliable, and it's so there for you, I guess. Maybe I'm just conflating that because it got me through being homeless. I was homeless for a month, so it was okay. But it was great times. The next one we've got here is Hanga. This is a slightly older version, but it should still do the trick. I think you get what it is from this. It's one of the most classic games out there. You just stack blocks and try not to knock.
You really about to do it?
40 acres in the mule. This is bigger than the music.
You really about to do it?
Yeah, they tried to rig the game, but you can't fake influence.
They get on it like that.
Take a block from the bottom and you put it on top. You take a block from the middle and you put it on top. That's how you build a tower, you just don't stop. You gotta build that tower putting blocks on top. And it teeters and it totters as you build it all up. It weebles and it wobbles, but you don't give up.
Now, ironically, I already think this is a pretty portable experience because you don't need a specific board or context to play it in. You just need a table that is sturdy, just a sturdy surface. And you can play Jenga just like that. I play it every September 11th because, you know, Ludacris's birthday is just that special to me. So we've got that there. And then we've got a smaller version of the game. This is one that I picked up from Dollar Tree. And you might think that, oh, well, relative to it, it's rather tall. It's made of 72 blocks instead of 54. That's because for a while, they were selling them by 36 blocks and then just doubled them up inexplicably for some reason. Now, what's funny about these is that I bought this to demonstrate a point in a previous video, and I didn't realize that I already owned it. So now I have two of them, so let's have some fun. Oh, of course it's fucking wrapped in shit. It just occurred to me, this whole part here is just hollow, so if this is plastic wrap and not a plastic sleeve like this one has, then how are you supposed to put it away? Damn it, Dollar Tree. You let us down again. Typical. Natch. This is another version. This one comes to us from Greece. See, my girlfriend at the time visited Greece to go bond with her heritage, of course. And this was what she brought back. Because, you know, you can't find nothing like it in America. I feel like a roulette croupier, just like picking up all the chips of people that have made terrible mistakes on the roulette board. But yeah, this is the same premise as the other one. It just doesn't have any big holes in the box, so you can actually just pack it up just like that. Now, I've talked previously about some of the flaws in tiny versions of Jenga like this, mainly being when you make it smaller, the amount of degrees by which you are varying it by tapping a block or doing anything is multiplied by how much smaller you make it. Am I even making sense with that statement? But what if you finally, you know, get some diamond hands on you and manage to conquer the tiny mini tumbling tower, Kuzio Minoi Mini? It's only natural we go just a size down here. This is a series of tiny board games that this company makes called the World's Smallest. Yes, actually works. Can you believe it, guys? They managed to fit a bunch of tinier pieces of plastic into a larger piece of plastic and then seal it in another piece of plastic. You see, I've used that joke before in a previous video. So if you watched my content, you were able to groan along with me instead of laugh at that. Now, if I thought that this was just a little too small for me to actually get any fine detail and really work with it, I'm curious to see how this one works when they recommend you play it with smaller instruments like a straightened paper clip. You know, because they couldn't spring to just include a tiny poker or anything. And I wasn't kidding when they make a lot of these tiny board game things, this company, with all of them promising full gameplay. It's full gameplay in a tiny form factor. Somehow I doubt that. But hey, at least there's a 20% off coupon to get giant Jenga. If only I was making that video. So here it is right here, contained within a little plastic prison. I don't know how you get it out without knocking it down. This is solid down here, this is solid up here, and this is the only way it opens. Now, something I was immediately surprised by right there is that these actually feel a little bit loftier than I would have expected. Because, like, I expected these to be virtually weightless, but the plastic here actually gives it a lot more weight than if these were wood, which I guess would make sense, and I suppose is why they decided to do it. Now, each of these plastic pieces also has the Hanga logo embedded within it, and a textured surface here, which, you know, is obviously there for cosmetic purposes, but it also adds a little bit of friction to the pieces, so that way, if you would actually were trying to fuck with it, you can, well, fuck me, I guess. But yeah, the textured pattern here helps the pieces kind of stay in place a little bit. Otherwise, I imagine they would not be too privy to moving, to staying in place. Although it is still extremely difficult to even remove one piece without, Yes! Yes! I don't know, my finger work ain't so good, you know, just ask my wife, fellas. This is really cute, though. I wonder if the guys from Robot Chicken appreciate tiny props like these. There is something that kind of attracts me to miniaturized versions of products. You know, I'm a big mini brands idiot. I don't know, I just think there's something satisfying about accurately recreating the details of a product and shrinking it down to scale. So that's kind of part of the thing that draws me to miniature board games, I guess. I also have this tiny foosball table. Speaking of course, I also have a tiny roulette table, which has a drawer and storage compartment, a tiny rake for you to rake up all the bets that lost you, and a tiny BB you can use to actually play the game. Red 1, odd, low, in case you were curious. Walmart used to sell these at Christmas time. Don't ask me, I don't know why. Alright, in the cold open we talked about Operation there, so let's give you guys the satisfaction. The one I showed here is this tiny keychain Operation, and I was quite curious about it because, you know, as we all know, Operation is an electronic game, so I'm curious, is this a tiny electronic game, or is it some weird, amorphous, vague parallel to it like the McDonald's toys? Well, I think we figured out which one it is. So it's just magnets, and you're just trying to... I don't even get it. Let's see if the instructions can elucidate for us. Place the parts back in Sam's body. I don't want to put them in Sam's body. I'm trying to take him out. I'm not trying to fuck him up. So all you're trying to do is to just carefully kind of finagle the parts in. It's basically the exact same thing as the McDonald's toy we saw earlier. Something that feels a little disturbing is that they've dyed the pieces red here. So it's like chunks of his body that have been cut into the shape of, like, you know, a sandwich. I don't like that. I don't like this. This is not Operation. This is just fucking woolly wooden, whatever the fuck his name is. I'm so fucking stupid, dude. I shouldn't do any research before doing these. It's at least rather easy to just close these up, but I think a pretty big flaw is that they have to be shut with this branded rubber band here, which, you know, as we've shown on this channel, the elasticity of the rubber band breaks down after a couple years. If you guys own any older electronics that have like a rubber coating on it, you know how that degrades into just paste. But I do have another Operation here, and hopefully it's not the exact same thing. It's by another world's smallest, and this one says, yes, actually works. To be fair to the other one, it didn't say that it worked on the cover. You just assume it does because we live in a capitalist society and people sell things that are good for money. They didn't say it worked, so you're the idiot for falling for it. Well, it comes with the pieces loaded right in already. Oh, that's sick! You just put the tweezers into the hole in there, and then you close it up by just... Whoa! Oh, boy. Oh, wait. This is sick, actually. So it has the tweezers. It has little pull pegs on them, so it's not super hard, I guess. And you're just trying to... We've removed his heart. Oh, shit. Ah! Oh, wait. These are wired in with fishing line. So you can't even lose the parts. That is sick! Listen to that alarm. It sounds like he's screaming. Oh my god. Poor Sam. You know, you don't get enough attention for being the other board game mascot. That is cooler than cool. That is much fun. And because it's smaller, it's harder than the original. You have to have even finer detail. I like that a lot. That's a nice piece of business. Now this one I picked up because it actually looks shockingly practical. Boggle. It's just miniaturized Boggle. Now, I've shown before that I have a version of Boggle that's like exists in this self-enclosed container. I don't know where the fuck it is. I have too many games. But this is sick because it also has the tiny sand timer that goes with Boggle. This is self-enclosed. The case doesn't go off at all, but you just shake it up, settle the cubes, and go. And I'm curious if this is a 3-minute timer like the original. Okay, it's like a 30-second timer. I mean, I don't know what you expect when the timer is the size of a thimble, but I would go as far to say that this is easily the most practical miniaturized Boggle. This is one that goes beyond just being a novelty and actually functional and usable, and that is something to think about. That is really nice. I've got a couple of chess and checkers sets here as well. These are similar to the ones I showed earlier, but they're just not there, man, because, like, the pieces, they have individualized pieces for each of them, and, you know, that seems nicer and all. Like, look at how detailed that king looks. I was also quite disappointed in this one, because, you know, even though the printing is red on the outside, the pieces are just white and black for the chess pieces, so I didn't even bother taking that one. I already knew it was a scam from fucking Jump Street. But this one here was rather interesting. It's by Cardinal, which, like, is a semi-real board game maker. They have a really nice faux leather case, and the inside they have genuine cast metal pieces that you can use to play chess with. And just like on the plastic ones, I love the attention to detail here. And I like that it's silver and gold versus, like, white and black. It helps ease racial tensions there. I'm kidding. But I do like how it's themed. And I kind of like better that it uses pegs rather than magnets, because, you know, the magnets will, like I said earlier, they'll attract to one another, they'll slide all around. This one has specific spots that it will go to, and there's no reason why any pieces will get knocked over. Also, you gotta give a lot of force to fuck with that. But this one's interesting here because, you know, even though it's smaller and presumably cheaper, it just feels luxurious, and that's what I like. That's the way, I like it. Battleship. This is interesting because all the pieces are already slotted into pre-molded slots. Unlike, in fact, all the games I showed earlier, this is a game that you can just put the pegs right in and then close right up. Well, on some other editions. On this edition, maybe not. This also seems like it would be pretty decent for a portable experience because while the pegs are loose, the actual pieces here don't get moved and fucked with. So, I mean, they have all the components here where the pieces slot into dedicated locations. They have a storage tray to keep the pieces nice and neat and sorted. So, when they brought Battleship to the small screen, they just did it again. I even have this other version here, which is shaped fucking weird, but it's just the same exact thing. So, sometimes it doesn't take that much effort to just change it to a smaller version. They don't have to do anything different at all, actually. These portable versions do have enough clearance to where when you close them, it does allow you to resume the game if you have a game in progress. Which you likely will, because Battleship is a long fucking game. I like how envious they are. They're just like, I wish we had dicks. Now, you might consider this a detour, or maybe a crossover with some of my other videos, but I did talk earlier how Simon is a very board game adjacent, not board game. It's an electronic game, but it gets grouped in a lot with board games. It's made by a board game toy company, so I do bring it up a lot with regard to board game discussions. So, of course, because there's a Simon, there's a mini Simon that Dollar Tree sells. And I have been dying to try it. I am so curious how it sounds. Is it gonna sound decent? Is it gonna look decent? All questions that will soon be answered. It runs off of 2 AAAs, which of course they don't supply to you, and is held in with a plastic door and a metal screw. Because fuck you, I guess. Even though this thing is worth $1.25, we're not gonna make it easy to change the batteries on it. Wow. That was actually surprising. So, check out the startup on Simon here. Now check out the startup on Memory Flash. That's so cool! They ripped off the thing! That's so cool! They accurately ripped it off! Now it's just piano notes, it's not electronically synthesized. It's the lamest stock sound effect. Oh, you get to pick up where you left off? You get 2 tries before dying. That's neat. I guess they had to change it a little bit, although I don't know. Can you tell? Can you even tell that's the same thing? Who would notice? I don't think it has an option to turn the sound off, and the speaker is at the bottom, so either way you've got jumbled, muffly noise that's still obnoxiously loud. So, I don't know what context this would be convenient in, but buttons don't feel too bad either. God. Now, do you guys know the chore of lugging around playing cards? Oh my god, guys. They put you in here. They did. They actually put you in here. Here, tell you what, I'm gonna make a different version that you guys can send to your friend or your significant other or whatever, depending on your level of animosity. I will, of course, be playing them all at the exact same time for maximum effect. Oh my god, they put you in the playing deck. They actually put you in here. Yes, ace. I am such a fucking misanthropic little shit, am I? Why can't I take anything seriously? I have to coat everything I do in a veneer of irony to assuage accusations of not actually being funny. So yeah, a playing card deck, you know, the most portable thing ever. Well, they made it even more portable. Although I don't like these, so we're going to compare it to a real deck of cards. The Deck of Hillary, produced by Newsmax. This cost me 10 cents at a garage sale, and I believe I got my money's worth. So in the standard size deck here, you just get normal stuff. I mean, you guys have likely handled playing cards before, although this one has the added bonus of having Hillary Rodham Clinton quotes, like, within and beyond their homes, adults must speak out against racial, ethnic, religious, or gender slurs. What an asshole she is. You got her there, Newsmax. Owned. Other than feeling like they were made out of cheap paper, you know, because they're the size of playing cards, I can actually shuffle and cut them quite well. Let's try and do that with this deck of playing cards. Now, of course, as I said before, the smaller you make things, the more the actions you have on them impact them. But also, just because of the material they're made of, they're firmer and harder to bend and shuffle because they're that much smaller and there's that much less material to go around. Now, I can actually see a couple of uses for these. If you've ever been on like a train or a plane or an automobile, they sometimes will have trays that come down, but they're quite small. They're not good for many card games. This could actually be a pretty decent size for those tiny, tiny trays. Another use you could use them for, which definitely wasn't intended, was for this deluxe table game set that I got. It comes with a couple of casino layouts, but if you notice, the one that comes with blackjack, the spaces they expect you to either place your chips on or place the cards on is it's not matching. This is way too small. That's what you get when you mess with Hillary Rodham Clinton, guys. But these card sizes actually match perfectly with these. Maybe this is the actual size they intended. Maybe these cheap layouts that are being sold at fucking Ollie's and Big Lots aren't the greatest, and they're shrunk down for material costs. Who's to say? This material feels absolutely horrible on my fingers, by the way. It is the cheapest felt ever put to the earth. Now, standard playing cards aren't the only tiny cards that the world has ever seen, if you can believe it. Uno, another famously portable game, a game that was made to be portable, got its own mini version with Uno Go. One of the most immediately obvious changes is it has about half the amount of cards that a normal deck of Uno would have, because the cards have to be half the size of a normal Uno card, and if it had the same amount of cards, it would be this thick. But to offset that, cards such as the Wild +4 and the Draw 2 have been replaced with the Wild +2 and the Draw 1 card to have the experience and make it better. That was the greatest spread the world has ever seen. Other than your mom. Well, you know, it's not great, so it's in line with a typical Uno experience, so at least there's that. The next item on the docket is Connect 4, a game so simple I don't even need to describe it. Just take a look at it and you already know how to play. Setup for the game, obviously, is extremely simple. Still fuck it up. There's very few moving parts, very simple pieces. I think this would be a prime candidate to get miniaturized, because the game is so simple, it doesn't require complex movement or complex pieces like Monopoly might. Spoilers. So moving down a scale, we're going to the Mini Classics collection. This is a thing that Five Below does, and I believe some other stores do that are going out of business for some reason, where it's like just a miniature version of Connect 4 to make it more portable or to make it cheaper, etc. Jesus Christ. And I gotta say, this is a pretty neat translation here. All the pieces are held into these little sleeves that you just load very simply like that. Just pull a token out from the bottom, place it in, and this is, so far, I think, the most uncompromised the gameplay is. The pieces are totally graspable in your hands, even as a 22-year-old adult. And I really like the dispenser sleeves here on the sides. I'm not sure what to even call them. but they're quite neat. This one can be folded down like this. I wouldn't trust these latches to be really jostled around too much, so maybe keep the box with you just in case. And the gameplay being basically uncompromised with a smaller scale is kind of golden, because a lot of these miniature versions are bought for budget reasons. If you notice here, it says Soma Student Workshop at the top. Soma refers to School of Media and the Arts at my old college, Cayuga Community College. I bought a bunch of board games for them, and in return to thank me, they banned me from using any of their telecom equipment, even though upon graduation I was entitled to in perpetuity. Don't count on anything from anyone, especially if their name is Laura, whatever the fuck her last name is. Moving down, we got a couple more here that are even smaller. One of these has a keychain link on it, and one of them does not. As you can tell, this is from the same keychain series I featured earlier with Operation. And as I said, that rubber band thing does wear down very quickly and has a tendency to be quite sticky. But this tiny version here is actually remarkable here. They even have tiny patterns embossed onto the checkers here, which is rather interesting. I like the mechanism here where the board where you break it. I like the mechanism here where the board folds flat, then folds around. Makes this all extremely portable and extremely practical as well. The checkers are also separated into their own trays here by the board. There's no crossover between the other there. Place the checkers, you just place them into the board like normal, which is completely uncompromised from the original game, 7x6 still. And to empty it, you just pull it open, turn it to the side, and do that. It is remarkable how practical and usable this version is. I'd even go so far as to say that this is the best version so far, with the only criticism being that maybe the checkers are just a little bit too small. We might be reaching the event horizon. Might be. We haven't reached it yet. Now, something I really want to emphasize about this version here is that it is extremely clever and well designed. This version is not. Other than the rubber band, which will inevitably snap and wear down and release cancer-causing chemicals into your skin. Instead of the tray going in like this and keeping all the checkers in so that way they don't jostle everywhere, you're supposed to flip the entire thing around and place the board into the top like that. To make matters more confusing, only one side has holes in it in comparison to the other side, in which both sides have holes. So that way you can just lift it up and empty it into the tray. Now, I guess this is handy when you don't have a tray to empty into, because I don't know why they didn't put it on the inside here. There's even a little division where they could have the checkers separate into two separate piles, but whatever. Well, what's also strange is that they've reduced the columns from 7 columns to 6 columns. So the strategy here of, you know, you gotta go for the middle row, because that gives you the most options here. Well, there's no middle row now. The game's completely flipped on its head. And I wouldn't say it's in a good way, because there's no reason for it. Also, obviously, because there's no tray to put the checkers in, you just keep it in this little dime bag here, with no bespoke printing or anything. I almost don't even want to put the checkers in, because it's just so laborious to put this game back together. I guess the idea is you can empty it back into there and do it that way. But who the hell wants to do that? Especially when this rubber band, this is 3 years old, and it is not good. It is already turning into straight up petroleum. I'd go as far to say that it's definitely usable. It is a lot more usable than some of the other examples that I've featured thus far, but I honestly don't think that's any benefit to the designers of this at all, because Connect 4 is such a simple game that, honestly, it'd be impressive to fuck it up as much as they have. Also, the Connect 4 board that's featured here is inaccurate because it has the 7 columns, and I just showed it has 6. Next up is honestly a rather surprising example. Rubik's Race. This is relatively, in comparison to the other board games I've shown, more obscure. Don't worry guys, I will show you how this game is played after the 20-minute setup. Now, the idea to this game is rather neat. So you take this little box of cubes, you shake it up, and what you were trying to do is... well, that one's impossible. So what you're supposed to do is take this little clear cube with other cubes in it, shake it up, and it'll generate a pattern for you. Players compete against one another to try and create the pattern in the middle. The concept is similar to those puzzle slider puzzles. The concept is similar to those, like those 16-tile puzzle things you might see in like Chuck E. Cheese or something. One of those things you buy when you have just enough tickets for something else, even though you should probably save up to get something that actually is worth it. Both the players are working against each other to try and slam it down first to create the pattern in the center here. And I think it's a really cool concept too. However, this version I have is flawed for so many stupid reasons. Very simply, number one, the box that it comes with is one of those cheap boxes where it's made out of one piece of cardboard. It has tabs on either side. So unlike other board games where they give you a second piece of cardboard and then you can just close it back up and contain it, this one is just one box. And ordinarily that might not be too much of a big deal, but after a couple years of opening and closing it up, gaps will inevitably form in the cardboard. This gets worn down very quickly because it's like actual corrugated cardboard and not paperboard like a lot of other board games are. Especially when you have all the pieces in it, you're counting on the weight of the entire thing, not slowly opening it and causing a disaster. And that's ironic because fans of Rubik's Cubes, which, you know, I'm speaking as someone that isn't one, tend to go to conventions a lot, and this game is really not that portable. Ideally, what you'd have it do is close down into something like this. Instead, it disassembles into three pieces that are rather difficult to put together. To put these three pieces together, you kind of have to twist the tray into the hooks on either side, and then put all three pieces together simultaneously. Another problem is that this can get rather rickety pretty quickly. This one's still pretty usable, but this is my second copy. The first one was just completely unusable because it is only being held in place by these tiny plastic lips that hold the plastic in place. And finally, the pattern generation thingy, what do you call it? The scrambler trademark. The way that it works can generate impossible patterns. There are only 4 tiles of each color, so if you rolled this, it'd be impossible. You gotta shake it again. Why is it even able to do that? This isn't a new game. This is a copy of it from the 1980s. And guess what? Oh, they gave us 2 pieces. Oh my god, look at that. The entire tray is actually one whole goddamn board. You don't have to do some weird twisting whatever thing. And even though this is 40 years old by this point, the tray works perfectly fine. It still has the flaw of the scrambler, but I mean, that's the least of the concerns here. So, yeah, this version, definitely the most ideal version to get. But it's not what they sell anymore. My primary concern here is that the Rubik's Race game that is sold currently is really not convenient. So they made it small. The idea here is that it is literally the pack and go variant, where you can pack it up and just take it to Rubik's Cube conventions if you so desire. Already, as you can see, the entire thing folds down into one thing. Genius. Fucking brilliant. Now, the tiles aren't super well stored. They still have clearance to jostle around because they don't have that little nub that you put in the final space that holds everything in place with tension like in those other 25 tile thing whatevers. But already the setup here is so much faster than it is for the original game. The window mechanism here seems sturdy enough. A concern of mine is that it would have too much pull and actually flip over the other person's tray, but that doesn't happen. It's sturdy. And also, instead of the Rubik's Cube Scrambler, they just have cards with predetermined patterns on them. What a novel fucking concept. I'd go as far to say that this is not only a suitable mini version, like Connect 4, but it's actually an improvement over the original, like Mini Catan. In fairness to bitch, though, I guess the one thing that I have to criticize it for is the same thing that a lot of these mini games suffer for. When you make it smaller, when you're doing something you'd normally be doing in the original game, because it's smaller, you're affecting it more than you would be in the original. And also, closing this up takes a steady hand. Since I've already spoiled it, let's just do this. Monopoly, believe it or not, it's on this list. You might be able to infer from the several times I've mentioned mini Monopolies in previous videos that it is not a game that works very well in a miniaturized setting. For some reason, Hasbro tries time and time again to make Monopoly a portable experience. We're rating these miniaturized games in terms of practicality and how useful they are. And honestly, a current version of Monopoly is almost getting small enough to where it's unusable. Oh, great. Why don't you come organize a Monopoly set with me? Now, a problem you might have noticed off the bat, Monopoly has a lot of damn pieces to it. And they really can't cut any of the pieces to try and make the game work. They have to include everything featured here, including all the money. In the Dollar Tree version that I showed earlier, they tried to eliminate the chance cards by just making it one single card, and then you roll dice, and the dice correspond to a chance card on that card. Did I say card enough times? But obviously that doesn't work because, number one, dice rolls are not distributed evenly. There's more combinations that create numbers between the middle of the pack compared to the outliers like 3 and 18. And also, in a normal game of Monopoly, when you're drawing cards, that chance card is gone from the game until you reshuffle the cards. But the way they had it set up in the Dollar Tree version, you could have the same chance card pulled like 5 or 6 times in a row. And because they had it delineated based on probability of dice rolls, which are heavily favored to certain numbers over the other, that is actually very probable. I.e., it breaks down the game. So, to miniaturize it accurately, they have to include the chance cards. They have to include the property cards. They have to include the community chest cards. They have to include the money. They have to include the player tokens, and they have to include the houses, and they have to include the hotels. And not only do they have to include all that, but they gotta include the damn board as well. Like I've said previously, this is a big game. There's a lot in this. There's a lot of mechanics that you have to be keeping track of that, you know, cannot work in a tiny version. Try as they might, though. Let's see how they do it. So we're going to start out with the grab-and-go version here. It's very similar to the series I showed earlier. Now, this version here is interesting. It's encased in a plastic case. Something was flying. Comes with houses, comes with hotels, comes with 3 dice. Oh no, don't tell me. They're doing the same thing as goddamn Dollar Tree. Really? This is supposed to be a more premium set. That doesn't feel much like chance, does it? So already I say that that disqualifies it from being a usable alternative. But what else do we got here? We got individual property cards for each property. I mean, could be hard to play it without it. You got the money here, nicely sorted. There's no bank, obviously. Hotels, houses, and the dice, as I just mentioned. Now, on the back side here, there's a couple of indentations, but I'm not sure I understand what they want me to do. I think the money is supposed to go here, but then, what, everything just kind of gets tossed around on the inside here, I guess? Genius. So already we're at like the quarter size variant of it, and the game is completely broken. But not for it being mini. If it had the actual chance cards, it'd actually be playable. But for budgetary reasons, they've cut the chance and community chest cards. So, like I said, the game's just not usable. So, let's move down even smaller here. This is from the same miniaturized board game company that made the pretty decent Connect 4 that we featured. On the inside here, we've got even smaller stacks of money. We have all the property cards properly enumerated. And guess what? We also got the damn chance and community chest cards. They can do it! Why is it in the larger one they don't have it? Board is this card that slides into this plastic insert here. And the remainder of these pieces go in this tiny Ziploc bag that you roll up like a fucking joint and put in there. Now we're officially at the point where it is not practical by any means to use your fingers to grab the pieces. So you really have to use a set of tweezers to get any usability out of this. Now, believe it or not, this isn't playable. It's still way too small, but it is kind of remarkable in how they did manage to accurately recreate all the pieces to Monopoly. They have accurate houses, accurate hotels. They got tiny, tiny, tiny dice, which are cute. And even the pieces are molded miniature molds that have shiny shit within it to make it look like metal, which is pretty cool. This isn't practical, but I don't think it's meant to be. It's just kind of a novelty here. But because we're grading these on practicality, this is a fail. If for anything, it's because the house is just very, barely smaller than the hotel here. The house takes up pretty much the goddamn property, so forget about buying 4 houses on a property instead of a hotel. And somehow, I'll be damned, it is actually easier to put away than the one that is much larger than it. Because it seems the people that designed this cared the slightest. That was no trouble at all. Jesus fucking Christ. I don't know what this series is, the keychain series, I guess I'll call it. It's got another rubber band. Now, this isn't the stock version, this is the gold version. And I guess we're about to find out what substantial difference the gold version makes. So starting out, we got a much larger board than the original, which already creates some problems here, because it's just made out of paper. Instead of properties, they have countries, like the silhouette of countries as their properties for some reason. So obviously the most valuable country is the United States, and the least valuable is, I think that's the Netherlands. I don't even know what country that is.
What country you from?
That's why it's the least valuable, of course. I wonder if you could use this in like any official rankings as like, this country is bar none better than this other country. You heard it here first, guys. Russia is $20 better than Ukraine. I don't want to step on facts, that's just truth. That's a truth nuke brought to you by Hasbro Gaming. The money is also all connected here. You're supposed to tear it out of these perforated sheets, so they did not even want to bother doing the least bit effort. And I mean that with no exaggeration, because the perforation is misaligned on this set of bills. Like, they had one thing they could fuck up, and they did. Now, as you're noticing, a lot of this stuff is unfolding into a huge mess. Kind of a Synecdoche, New York situation. Colossally. Like, massively. Like, problematically, this is becoming a huge mess. The houses and hotels are also not houses and hotels. They're just sheets of plastic that you pop out of a blister pack. And worst of all, the pieces are not the iconic, ordinary objects that you play as, like a penguin. Look at all this shit. And for what? This isn't going to be fun. This is going to be completely miserable. If you guys want to see an episode where I actually attempt to play this and then package it up, please like the video. But if you're watching this on television, send a pipe bond to the following address to indicate that you would like to see that video. I will accept no other communication that isn't that. I can understand some cheapness in modern board games with like them hollowing out the sorry pawns. But when it goes to this extent here, where, you know, I know that this is just a gimmick version of the game, but they expect us to be content with this. I just can't abide by that. A lot of people were asking me when I made the Dollar Tree episode, saying essentially, what did you expect from Dollar Tree? I expected a functioning product in exchange for legal tender. That's what the basis of capitalism is meant to be. When you abide bullshit because, oh, it was only $1.25, you're gonna get more bullshit. But because I mentioned Dollar Tree, let's talk about a Dollar Tree pickup. Micro Kerplunk. This was from the Dollar Tree. I expect it to work because I think that should be the baseline expectation of anything you buy. Call me fucking crazy. This is Kerplunk, which is based on, believe it, Kerplunk. Oh my god, really? This is an official game from Mattel? You guys are the only company standing up to the fucking monopoly, pun maybe intended, of Hasbro, and you pull shit like this? This is shit that, like, Chinese knockoffs expect you to fucking put up with. Not mainstream, legitimate fucking companies. Holy shit. So, Kerplunk is a pretty simple enough game. You just snap together the pieces. You feed the fucking 6 million straws they give you through the holes. Somehow, I didn't anticipate how long the setup to this game is. Believe it or not, I'm not a big Kerplunker. And what's funny is, as you insert more straws, it gets increasingly difficult to add the remainder of them, because the straws that you already have in there will bend your stick every which way to prevent it from just going straight. If you're unfamiliar somehow by literally everything I've shown you so far, you fill marbles into the top, which I'm kind of surprised to learn are just stock marbles. They're not, like, proprietary at all or anything. The tray at the bottom here has 4 divisions in it. At each turn, you rotate it, pull out a stick, and then rotate it, and then the next player will pull out a stick. The person with the most marbles in their tray at the end of the game loses. The premise is quite similar to other physics-based games like Jenga or Nekojima. Unlike those games, there isn't really that much strategy to it. It's just, don't pull the wrong straw. And you can't really get a feel for, like, which straws will affect what. I mean, some of them are kind of obvious because you can see they're not touching any marbles. But at a certain point, you are just pressing your luck. I do like that these straws are different colors, so if you wanted to introduce a variant of it where you had to select a straw that was only a specific color, you could do that, but there's no apparatus in the actual game to do that. As you can see, why I might be surprised by the fact they're just stock marbles when in the image here they're shown to be colored proprietary ones. I will say that the center column here is quite good at actually getting the marbles to shoot out. I had anticipated that they would stay static in the center here, but so far all of them have had no problem rolling right out. I will say this is another one of those board games that is only one piece of cardboard, but it is constructed a lot better than a lot of other board games that are only one piece of cardboard like this. So this actually works quite fine, but it's just like a container. The bottom flap here is glued shut, so it will not open and cause a disaster. In any case, any container is better than no container, because as you might have already noticed, this does not have any container here. It's just this packaging thing, whatever you want to call it. However, a flaw off the bat is that because it's smaller, the tolerances between the holes and the straws are significantly smaller, because the difference between them might not matter that much on a larger scale. There should be enough friction to hold them in place. A difference of even a fraction of a millimeter in the size of the holes here really colors the game. See, because the straws are taking up so much at the center here, I'm not even able to thread them all the way through. The only way I can even get them in at all is if I don't connect them to the other side. Otherwise that'll happen. Something that's concerning about these sticks being looser is, number one, I reckon that the marbles will fall almost instantly, even as you're putting them in. I'm kind of skeptical that the straws will even hold the marbles. And number two, you have to be rotating the center here a lot, and with the slightest adjustment moving all the straws, unlike on the original game, that causes some problems. But we are here and now, so let's give it a shot. Well, I anticipated the straws moving around and really disrupting the game as I'm rotating it, but it seems that's not happening. They are too loose, and that just comes down to the tolerances of plastic molding when you make it this small. This is really cute, and it's kind of like Connect 4, in which it's simple enough of a game, of a concept even, to miniaturize down or blow up in the opposite direction. Oh, that was fair. Let's see how well the marbles actually exit the ramp, though. Exit the center cylinder, whatever you call it. Well, all of them have left. Hungry, hungry hippos. This one gets the yellow circle, and up to this point I haven't really specified why I'm grading one's specific way. I've just thought that my commentary on it would speak for itself, but even though this is I'd say 80% practical implementation of it, there's no box, which is a huge drawback. There's nothing to actually contain it in. You have to source your own proprietary baggie to store it in, which sucks. And also, like with a lot of these other games, when you make it smaller like this, the amount that you're fucking with it by doing normal things is increased inversely by how much smaller you are making it. However, it is easily not one of the worst out there. I'd even say that it goes a little bit above being mediocre. It's a lot more usable than some of the other ones. It's just, there's no damn box for it, really? And the usability is tarnished slightly by its form factor. Our next hot topic is Guess Who? Some of these I have to wonder, like, why are they portabilizing these games? They seem way too niche. I do not see really the draw in portabilizing it. I've always associated Guess Who as just being a children's game, you know, unlike these other board games, of course. But a children's board game where you're teaching them very rudimentary deductive skills. Also, I failed to see the reason to make a travel version or even a keychain version at all, when I think the original version is perfectly portable because the entire thing is just these two pieces of plastic here. How are you going to lose this? Lose one of the whole trays? The setup is very simple. You just do that, which is always been something I've praised about it. It's something that, you know, the setup is 5 seconds for the game. So let's see how they translate that with the first mini edition I have, Guess Who by Milton Bradley. That was not pleasant. So these hinge out like this, but they do not stay like that. You are supposed to separate them and have them go like that. The hinges for the Guess Who tiles have a lot more friction on them than the version I compared it to just a second ago. You can't set the game up with just a flick of the wrist. This version also features 19 Guess Who characters instead of 28, so the game is compromised a little bit there. Who do you pick? I'm gonna pick the black one. Once you get it set up, it is actually perfectly functional, and it is more portable. However, there's another massive flaw with the decision to have it in this sort of case. And if you're familiar with the little concept in physics... Oh, I just broke it. Okay. Ignore the fact that I just broke it. If you're familiar with a little concept in physics called gravity, you might notice that because you're opening towards each other, the damn Guess Who tiles are going to be popping out and making it difficult to close, when there's literally no reason for that. There are other versions of Guess Who that exist out there that fold outwards and prop up like that, and they're perfectly fine. I don't know why they couldn't have harnessed that part of their brain chemistry, but, you know, whatever, I guess. I'd say this is usable enough to qualify for a green check mark, but just barely. It is the worst best one shown so far, which is better than This one. This one is unforgivable in how terrible it is. It's one of the keychain ones, like I've shown previously in the same weird rubber band style series thing. But the way you're supposed to set it up is fucking horrid. So each of these are sheets of paper that you tear apart across the perforations, which of course they didn't fucking align correctly. What you're meant to do is separate them at these perforations, which good fucking luck. Fold it, stand it up like that. You go to the next one. You do that, let's say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 times. Unacceptable. No, this is not gonna fold down well into this at all, I can tell you that. And I can't say I can honestly think of a better option than that, but like, if you can't get it to work, don't fucking do it. Some people say that, you know, oh, there's a novelty in making board games tiny like this. Well, sure, there's novelty, but there's also more novelty in if it actually works. If it doesn't work and it's just something to observe, then you might as well not even fucking make it playable. You might as well make miniature figurines. I have more shooting to do right now, but I will cut to this fully assembled and see how easy it is to compact it down. Why did I buy dominoes? They're dominoes. Dominoes, folks! Oh my fucking god. No fucking way. Clue? Are you fucked? Let me get Clue. Let me get Clue out for you motherfuckers. Because clearly you ain't got one. The board for Clue is a board. I expect it to be more massive. The components that come with Clue are a board, a pad of paper, cards, dice, character figurines, and miniature props like the candlestick, the pistol, the rope. A lot of shit. Not quite as much as Monopoly, but it is a sit-down experience here. I am terrified to figure out how they have tinied this down. I guess we'll see. I'm going to predict that they're going to scrap the envelope, they're going to scrap the miniature props, because they're not technically necessary, and the pawns, instead of the version I have being little figurines, are just going to be colored pawns. African-American pawns, sorry. Which, you know, wouldn't bother me too much, because that's how they are in most versions of the game. But still, it's just another thing. God, even the instructions are tiny. So we are down, if my color coordination is correct, Miss White and Professor Plum. However, they still have character cards. Why? So all the character cards here, which by the way, is not made of any cardstock at all. It is made of the thinnest laminated paper ever. It almost feels like wrapping paper, with how it's kind of glossy and thin and most importantly, easy to fucking rip. Perfect for making perforated cards out of. They changed Miss White from being a maid to a chef. A woman's place isn't cleaning the house, guys. Come on. A woman also belongs in the kitchen. So here's something fun about these cards here. All of them have 4 damn languages on them. They just made all the versions they're gonna sell on this fucking hemisphere. Don't make different versions of it, just have it all the same, I guess. What a fucking nonsense, dude. The settings also don't have titles on them, I guess because they thought it'd be a little bit ridiculous to include each translation of kitchen, but somehow this isn't ridiculous. I don't fucking know. Problem with making these perforated, by the way, is because naturally I ripped one of these wrong, and because there's no envelope now, you can tell which card that is because it's been marked. Because they didn't want to spend the 0.8 cents in manufacturing costs to cut the cards for you. Nice work, Hasbro. Let's take a look at our board here. This board is uncompromised from the original, as in it is the exact same as the original size here, so what a fucking nuisance, dude. And because it's paper, yeah, everything's gonna fold up and be unpleasant and unusable, and this is a terrible idea for a miniaturized version of the game. So in this version, they have the character cards, they have the prop cards, they have the setting cards, and they have the Inquisition cards. I don't know what they're called formally. 2 tiny dice, And you know what? This is cute. They actually do have the pad of paper here, which is pretty adorable. It is so much smaller than the original here, but all you need to do to indicate what's what is just put a little check mark. So I think it's fine. Honestly, seeing everything unpacked here, this actually seems rather playable, but I'm still going to have to award it a fail, because if they just cut these cards and made it usable, instead of relying on me to tear all 50 of these damn cards correctly, and not fail once, or else I'll make the game unplayable, they ruin the game. And also, this paper board here is for the fucking birds. This is not usable. And you might be thinking, oh, you can just reverse the folds like that, and yeah, you can get it kinda usable, dude. Sure, maybe you can get your iron out and fold this down, but what are you gonna do when you're done? You gotta put it back together. I will say this does compact pretty nicely. The pieces go together pretty well. They actually accounted for where everything would go, and when everything was unpacked, I did not expect it to fit back together. It actually fit together pretty comfortably, but this is a fail. This is not a buy. We're gonna do a twofer here because these games are pretty similar. Chutes and Ladders and Candyland. Let's unpack them and have a look at how practical they are at being a board that you can just move pieces on. And how practical they are of just being static boards where you draw cards until you get to the end. So I was a little anxious from the box that I would only be getting 2 gingerbread men, but it actually comes with 4. So off to a good start. However, this is the same company that made the world's smallest Monopoly set here, but for some reason, they did not cut out the cards here either. Why? Now, they are perforated way better than they are in the Clue that I just featured, or the other Monopoly I featured. It's just a little pop out like that. But, like, come on, really? There's so many goddamn cards in fucking Candyland, and you're gonna do this to me? Also, I know a lot of people that take Candyland very seriously, and they'll be really upset by this because, again, when you're taking them out of the perforation, you're creating unique blemishes on the cards that indicate what they are, which would be a huge problem for a game that actually mattered. So maybe it was a smart decision that this is the only game they've done this on heretofore. I guess that's the most efficient way I can do it. Jesus Christ, this is so much trash. I'm not just talking about the game. I actually don't mind Candyland. A lot of people that had criticisms with it don't know how to have fun with things that are bad. I actually enjoy playing it with other people because it's funny to play the game as if it's strategic. I feel like people out there that criticize Candyland because it's simple or just not capable of even thinking dynamically at all to make something entertaining. And if that's the case, why are you so goddamn invested in strategy games if you're so fucking stupid? Guys, I was watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and believe it or not, the writing's actually pretty simplistic. Gee, I wonder if anyone can tell that this was recorded months later. Alright, anyways, I said we're gonna talk about Chutes and Ladders. Let's take a look at it. Inside it, we have the classic Chutes and Ladders board. I don't know why they bothered with this shit instead of taking up the whole real estate. But, you know, it's like the original Chutes and Ladders, where they definitely didn't use all the space that they could fit and print it on or anything. So, of course, when they translated it to the small version, they did the same. Like, what is this weird... It's like when you're watching something made in 16:9 on a 4:3 television. The board slides into there, and that keeps it secure. And they have mini versions of the little statuettes that it comes with, which I think is quite interesting. Almost as interesting, though, is the miniature spinner they gave you, that's a really cool little miniature version. Now, the gameplay is pretty simple, which is, I guess, conducive to the best translations here. Even though the figurines are quite small, they're still too large for this board, though. And given their proportion to the thing, it looks like they could have just blown up the grid so that way it takes up the whole thing, and they'd work fine. Let's take a look here, though. Oh, see? We're already halfway there. I used to play this game with my grandmother, and as a kid I got extremely frustrated that my grandmother couldn't figure out if you go up the ladders or down them, or up the chutes or down the chutes. And what was most frustrating is that she ended up winning that game, but she's dead now, so who won really? Now, even though this definitely wasn't recorded months later to the previous segment, I'm sure it will definitely make sense why I'm bringing up the one I'm about to bring up now, when it probably would have made sense to bring it in earlier. And I hope people don't figure out that it just would be too hard to edit it back in after it's all been cut up. We got an even smaller Catan, and this is the one that I had to buy. This I got from my semi-local board game shop in the mall, and it's just Catan in the portable edition there was already like so complex. It was usable, but that was like really the limit there. So I'm curious how they're gonna make it work at this scale, at like one billionth the scale. Let's take a look. These definitely favor simpler board games rather than more complex ones, so I'm very interested to see what goes on. And I cut into the box, damaged the resale value. Damn it. Oh, it's like not even strapped down or anything. It's just ready to go. So happy to be born. And here it is, Catan. Oh boy, this actually might be decent. Look at these tiny little itty bitty cards. For each part, I'm going to pull out the corresponding piece to it. This is one of the building costs cards here, and this is it in the original game. I got perfect eyesight, like 2010 eyesight, and for the life of me, gun to head, never in a million years. I mean, even the ones on the original here are a little bit difficult to read here. I don't know if I understand what the point is of making a version so tiny like this. If it's a joke, if it's whatever. And of course we got the tiny components like the cities and the towns and such. Just for comparison, of course, this is a city from the original, and this is a city from our mini version here. Man, this actually might be just the least practical adaptation. Maybe that's the point, because like, even with Monopoly, fucking, if you were held hostage and forced to play Monopoly, you could do this. I guess something this game might have going for it is that you have to like assemble the board. So you are forced to like make it larger, but you also, like, you know, in other games they typically just have you fold it up and put it back in. This is a brick card, and this is the size of like the supply cards, like the wood and stuff. I will say, I was surprised actually that these firmer cards, I think they're called developer cards, these are actually, they're made of a harder paperboard than the cards are. The original cards, do I open it? Yeah, let's open it. Remember, kids, always cut towards you, so that way you have perfect control over it. Oh, there's a little pull tab, actually. Oh, shit! Rare Catan misprint 6040. Someone get Tops on the phone. Or whoever grades that bullshit. I don't know. Oh, yeah, baby. Look at that goodness. Shocker, everything's small, but like, this is easily like the most complex board game translation I've ever seen. Let's just see how it works. Let's see if it comes with any instructions. That would be incredible if it did. They just expect you to psychically know how to play the game, maybe? Or maybe they suppose that this is not your first experience with the game. That also sounds possible. Alright, now you gotta pop out all these little hexagonal pieces. Along with the hexagonal tiles, which again, just another comparison here, are like the size of a cheese nip. You guys remember cheese nips? I think they discontinued them for having like asbestos or something. We also got these ship pieces and the number pieces. The number pieces, of course, rather small, literally to the point of illegibility, I'd say. Well, let's just see if we can even set this up just as a fun experiment. It's funny is we're working at a scale so much that it's actually difficult to even pop out these little cardboard things without ripping them. I'm trying really hard to avoid doing it because this is a really interesting miniature. And by the way, I'm just gonna say right now, this is easily a downgrade from the chutes and ladders thing, because the chutes and ladders was like kind of usable. This is like robot chicken scale. Another problem with putting them at a mini scale here that I guess I haven't experienced till now is that all the pieces will come together, and that's not a problem most of the time. But if you're trying to have them interlock like this, then the small tabs that each of the pieces are going to have are going to mess with the spacing on it. You know, once again, that's not conducive to a great Catan experience. What's funny is I swear at least a couple of these board games did come with tweezers. I might be hallucinating that, but I swear they did. But this one did not. You were supposed to just bare ass this. Yeah, man, this is like not ideal. There's like a specific pattern you're supposed to follow with the numbers, but at this size here, you can just kind of like sprinkle it on like salt, and it's perfect. This is perfectly playable. You know what, guys? I think this is a 10 out of 10. And I will say the scale is at least pretty accurate. Like they do, like the tiles and such do fit on the things in the same scale. And wow, they went for a generic dice instead of the colored dice that typically come with a set of Catan. They cheaped out here. Really? Unplayable. That's the only problem I have with it. Everything else is perfect. I feel like it's not trying to be practical or anything, but I don't know. It's difficult because it's like, well, I wasn't going for that. Well, then you should go for that as a game. I will say, at the very least, it compacts very nicely. I had no trouble compacting that at all. And with the snap of this rubber band sealing mini Catan shut like Jumanji, I'm going to bid this episode adieu. I would like to shout out the man that approached me in Wegmans and said that they're a big fan of this show. Him and his daughter, they watch it all the time. I hope you're watching this because you're the only person that has done that for me thus far. So I am talking about you if that's you. I just wanted to say I really appreciate it. Didn't appreciate it enough to get your name apparently, but shout outs to you. Thank you so much everyone for watching this very large episode about very small board games. I thought it had to have been apropos, of course. It was a deliberate cinematic decision. I apologize for the hiatus on episodes. You know, life is life. Life catches up to you. You will have at least another 10 more coming every other Sunday for the next 20 weeks or so. So I will promise you that on nothing. I'm not going to put that on anything, but it is coming. Video episodes are in the works, and I hope you guys will appreciate them when they come out. Thank you so much.